What's it going to take this winter, in your view, Simon, for Southgate to last his contract with England? I mean, last November,
I should think.
Gareth Southgate, you'll remember, and I know how you greeted it, he signed a new deal with England until 2024.
Yeah.
You still maintain that was a mistake by the FA?
Well, I don't think it was a mistake. I just don't think it was a necessity. And the two things are not the same, are they? I mean, you can't suggest that it's a mistake. He just come out of the European Championships with a team that was one penalty away from winning the tournament. And you'd have difficulty in finding, besides those that don't like Gareth Southgate, and there seems to be quite a significant amount of those, and don't think he has the tactical nous to be able to compete at the top end, that you'd find difficulty finding anyone saying really of sound body and mind that there isn't some merit behind Gareth Southgate being a long-term position. I don't understand the thinking of doing it in November, 4 months after the tournament, because you've got the dust settling behind an achievement which is now in the past. And I felt, and I maintain the thought, that too often in football people are rewarded for things too early and given less incentive to be constantly achieving in the current time. Gareth Southgate's natural progression has to be to win the World Cup. Now, I'm not suggesting he's going to win that.
He's got to win it to see it out.
I don't think he's got to win it, but I'm saying natural progression. So what we should have been doing, really, and I don't see any reason for them not doing it, unless Gareth Southgate there was things behind the scenes that we weren't privy to, which he's saying, if you don't give me a new contract and secure my future, I'm going to be leaving. But I don't think he was saying that. So I think he should have been judged. As an England manager, I know that Fabio Capello talked about the impossible job, and I know that previous England managers haven't even got us qualified into tournaments. Yeah. But let's forget the dark days and look at the fact that over the most recent times, we qualify for most tournaments, and so we should. An England manager should be judged, not on qualification, should be judged on tournament achievement. So if Gareth Southgate goes and achieves a significant outcome in the World Cup, by all means, if that's the...
By what? Winning it?
Well, certainly competing at the high end. So that means getting to the quarterfinal, semi-final. Depends upon the draw, of course. If we play one of the top sides in a draw and we go out in a very good, in a very brave and commendable fashion...
No. You weren't like this the other day when we were talking.
I am like this.
You're saying now it's time to win it.
I think
it's a World Cup semi-final.
You're asking me what keeps him in a job.
You're not asking the Euros final.
They're two different questions. You're asking me what keeps him in a job, not what I think they should do. I think that England have a very good chance if Harry Kane is fit to be able to win this World Cup. Do I think they should? Well, I think that's discrediting the other teams in the competition. I think they should get very close to it, and if they do win it, I wouldn't be surprised, and if they don't win it, I wouldn't be surprised. But as far as Southgate's concerned...
That's not saying much, is it?
Well, it is, because ultimately what we're doing is we're answering two questions. What should England do in the World Cup, and what should keep Gareth Southgate in a job? Now, we can conflate them, but I think what keeps Gareth Southgate in a job is a very credible performance. What I think is a credible performance, what I think we should do is try and win this tournament. And there'll be a difference.
I know that's good coming from a Scot, but the England fans won't settle for anything less.
If we get to the World Cup,
and surely that's if we get to the World Cup semi-finals, if we get to the World Cup semi-finals and we draw one of the top sides and beat them and get to semi-finals and get knocked out by, say, France in the semi-finals, I don't know if that's our group path, but let's just say that it is, right? What would be the argument to say, well, we've got knocked out by a better side, we played well in the tournament, we punched our weight, and we got beaten by someone else. Okay, get rid of Southgate and bring in who? Oh, yeah, I mean, there's always a who, but there's been an anti-Southgate sentiment growing, driven by you.
No.
Yeah. Well, you've been part of it.
I haven't driven anything. What I've been asked is a question.
You call him four-leaf clover boy.
I do. I think, well, hold on.
Well, that's not very respectful, is it?
Of course it is, because ultimately you still have to achieve within the confines of that four-leaf clover, but luck plays a big part in everything. Everybody has luck. I was very lucky to sell my business at the time because the mobile phone industry collapsed 2 years later.
We're lucky to have you here at talkSPORT.
Well, that's a different type of luck, isn't it? But the fact that you've got a draw, we cannot argue that the draws that Gareth Southgate has had in the two tournaments where he has achieved things that people have gone, well, that's notable, have been very, very favourable.
Yes.
That's what I mean by the four-leaf clover, because he's gotten great draws. And they've beaten the teams they should have beaten, and they've lost to the teams that could possibly beat them. So that's when I say, well, that's not really good enough.
But do you not concede that public opinion has somewhat changed in Gareth? I like Gareth. I know him quite well. I like him.
En masse.
Public opinion has changed.
En masse.
Wasn't that long? 0-4 against Hungary. You don't know what you're doing. Public opinion's changed.
En masse. We live in a society where people that represent a certain type of point of view tend to shout the loudest. And then we tend to do what we tend to do is go, that's representative of everybody else. And it really isn't. It's like activism. We hear the activists and they represent an interest group, but they don't represent the majority. It's like sitting in a football stadium as a football club owner, and I did it regularly, where a section of the fans would be saying that I was this, that and the other,
But there'd only be about 500 of them. The other 20,000 fans in the stadium would hold a different view. But what you did was you tend to listen to the vociferous minority. I'm not sure that the bulk of football fans in this country think Gareth Southgate isn't fit for purpose, but I do recognise and acknowledge the fact that a lot of people think that he isn't what people cracked him up to be, and I'm in that camp.
Ironically, it's Italy you play tonight, and there's a message, one of many coming in as we speak. This always happens as we crank off at 10 o'clock. Guys, I'm Italian. It's embarrassing we haven't qualified for the last 2 World Cups, but I can see us winning another major tournament before England do. You always have the players, sure, but for some reason the mix between the manager and the players is never right.
But that's not true, because this argument that we've had, the players, we create hype around ourselves, and we create this, we're the golden generation. But other teams have better players. When the golden generation were in their pomp, other sides had better players.
Do Italy have better players than you tonight?
Do Italy? No, not necessarily.
No,
I don't think so. But they didn't. Their managerial nous. What won that European Championship final was Roberto Mancini's managerial nous, which is where the difference between Southgate and the elite come in. Southgate will get you to a certain point because he's got a good group of players and he builds a good team spirit. But when it comes to that little tinker, that little bit of adjustment, that little percentage of difference between an elite manager and Gareth Southgate, that's where he fails.
We're going to go to a
We'll see if he changes that.
Before we do, let me just push us forward. Say you and I have been to Qatar, okay, and we're now back and we're sitting here. We don't quite know what England have done, obviously, at this stage, but by then we will have.
Yeah.
Is it your gut instinct that Gareth will go on and see out his contract to 2024?
The top of the question was, what does Gareth Southgate have to do to keep the England manager's job after this tournament? And I say to you, not very much. Because the England FA have set their stall out with Gareth Southgate, otherwise they wouldn't have given him a contract.
They'll get through the group stages. They'll get through, of course.
Well, bloody hell, they should do, shouldn't they?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So with that in mind, that's not an achievement, is it? That's just turning up and being decent. But what you're saying to me,
if they get to the likes of semi-final and they put a real fist of it, but they go out, you still say, you'll see out his contract.
Those that want Gareth Southgate
doesn't need to win it.
Those that want Gareth Southgate fired or want him judged by the standard of only winning this tournament, and then the narrative will build. Okay, if he doesn't win this tournament, we want him out. So when he doesn't win the tournament, they've built the underlying platform to leap off. The FA. What was the reason for giving him a 2-year extension on his contract? So they could pay him compensation? No, the 2-year extension on his contract was so they wanted him in the job for 2 years after the World Cup. And it won't take very much for him to be in that job after this World Cup unless we absolutely stink it out.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.